Hello and welcome to SHOWstudio. It's Sunday and we're here. And it's the last day, I think, of Fashion Week in Milan. And it's the day of Dolce Gabbana. So we're going to discuss Dolce Gabbana with a panel of experts. And I would like them to introduce themselves, starting from you, Nathalie.
Hello, I'm Nathalie Khan. I teach fashion history and theory at Central St. Martin's at London College of Fashion and at La Combe in Brussels.
I'm John Michael O'Sullivan. I'm an architect and a writer working in a book about 1950s fashion modelling.
I'm Bianca. Saunders. I'm a menswear designer.
I'm Tom Rasmussen and I am a journalist. I write for places like Days, ID, Love, etc.
Very trendy.
Very trendy.
Publications. Thank you so much for being here on a beautiful Sunday afternoon. So, Dolce Gabbana. We've been discussing a lot even before starting because we think that there is a lot to say about Dolce Gabbana. And it's not really about their fashion that we discussed so far, but it's about their feud, the controversies, their ways of doing things, their empowering, I think, more exploiting millennials, and using all the means that they have in modern times to be recognized and be modern and relevant. No matter how we like it or not, first of all, I have to say it works because their figures are very good. They have a very profitable company. They don't have to declare figures because they're private. So, but the analysts are able to project figures, and apparently they tripled from one year to the other, to 2016-17, and they have 80 million euros net profit after tax. So, to share with two people, it's not bad. So it's a company that sells, and one of the most striking things is that 1/4 of their turnover comes from Italy, apparently, and that's very striking because Italy, it's never that big, even for Italian brands, so it's quite incredible. Before giving you the floor, I also want to say that I think one of the reasons why it works so well and women love to wear Dolce Gabbana couture especially is because they're very close to their customers, so they show up themselves and they stitch and cut and redo things on the bodies of their friends and customers, and their customer can spend hundreds of thousands, and they have created these alta moda shows all over Italy where they invite the people into their lifestyle and Italy and the music and the food and and they become friends, and that's why I think people feel very comfortable in wearing their clothes. So before looking at this show that happened this afternoon, I would like to have your take on Dolce Gabbana, the lifestyle. Who wants to go first?
Okay.
I'm looking at you. Yeah.
I think Dolce & Gabbana are like the biggest example of a brand which shows how tied personal politics of a designer is to whether you like their clothes or not. So I used to love, before I sort of knew anything about them or followed what they were saying, what they were doing, I used to kind of love it, the brash, ostentatious, sort of amazing, sort of, 90s kind of sexy Italian kind of grey. But then obviously as I began to read more and follow more, basically they're just awful, awful people. And
that was very straightforward.
Yeah, so it's really hard to sort of like their clothes because it feels kind of like every stitch is imbued with their just sort of direct homophobia and tax evasion. And so for me, I find it sort of, it becomes not about the clothes, which is a shame. But yeah, I'm really don't like them.
How can someone who is openly gay be homophobic? Do we know that?
I mean, there's so many different reasons. Some could say it's down to things like gay shame. Some could say it's down to things being in relation to, say, femi-gays or different people within the gay community means for them as gay people. There's a lot of gay people who say, I'm gay, but we don't need pride. Stefano Gabbana said, is it on screen? I'm not gay, I'm a man, and then he sort of came out and said, oh, well, it's...
I don't like labels.
I don't like labels, but the irony is that, I'm a man is, just as much of a label as I'm not gay. it's utter junk, and it infuriates me. And I'm probably not being very articulate, but I just think it sends out terrible messages. And I was looking in the comments when he posted it, and there were so many men who I would click on their profile, and not to read all, you know, cis white gay men, but it's a lot of cis white gay men being like, yes, this is how I feel. And it's like, you know, but we're not in a time yet where anyway, I could literally talk for so long.
Tell us what you really think. No, we understand.
You know, so I mean, personally, it like hurts. It genuinely hurts. Like, as a gay person, as a queer person, as a non-binary person, it genuinely hurts me to see that.
But so when something hurts so deeply, would you buy their fashion, even if you loved it to death?
No, because I instantly despise it, which is a shame, but I instantly look at it and just think, well, the person who designed that said this. It's like, I'm not the biggest fan of Vivienne Westwood menswear, however, because I love what she says and what she said over the years. And
you make an effort.
You look at it differently, you love it, and you think, God, and I really think I think personally that's how I shop, and how I know a lot of people shop. They want to, you know, but it's interesting what you say about the figures, but I guess that's just testament to the fact there's like
they sell more women's. Women's. So what do you think, Bianca?
I find it really interesting that like their opinions haven't really hurt their business a lot. Like it's like
it hasn't at all.
Yeah, it hasn't at all. It's just it's still making money. People still find it fascinating. But it's just, I think I really liked the brand when it was so much about like it being an Italian family sort of like campaign, or like influence with like Madonna, and like when they had Whitney Houston, which was quite like interesting, when they did her like shows. That's when I really liked the brand, but I think some designs shouldn't be on the internet, I guess, to be fair, but I think they've kind of like passed the age where they, I don't know, are a bit ignorant to how their opinions affect people.
But I also find that this idea of being ignorant is a sign of pride for them, and they're sort of thriving on this idea of not wanting to be seen as political, which we talked about earlier, which then turns out to be very political because they're so deeply conservative, also involved with political parties. So they're supporters of Berlusconi, they are supporters of sort of Christian family values, and have publicly said that is a reason, also saying, you know, we are gay and we are celebrities, but have said we will never be able to have children, and that is something that we believe in, that is important. So rejecting, of course, Italy is still way behind. If we look at other European countries or other countries around the globe, you still can't get married in Italy, or civil partnership or any other partnership.
You can't adopt a child.
You can't adopt, yes. So
2018.
And then the whole controversy about that children that are born out of IVF, and you know, not only gay men use IVF, it is also women. I think we need to remember that are plastic children.
Yes,
again, that is highly synthetic children. That is highly controversial, but something that they take pride in.
I think it's just they just care about money. That's all they care about.
I sort of agree, because here I have, and sorry, I will give you the floor immediately, but I need to say something. You know, again, since my culture, I know a little bit about Italy, and you know, the fact that the Christian democracy has been in power for 50 years, and all those values, etc., etc. So one is Sicilian, one is from the north, but they're obviously very traditional. They come from a Christian Catholic culture. They have used that a lot, you know, to do all their you know, all the stereotypes like familia, la mamma, Dio, the church, whatever, and but then they go against modernity. They go against so that they're like reactionary to me. Yes, and so when you say they're ignorant because they passed the age of the internet, I disagree. I think they're ignorant because they are ignorant. I think you can use the internet in a very intelligent way, being their age, and if you read their posts when they reply to people that are criticizing, it's very badly written. They don't even have someone who speaks English editing them. There's this arrogance, you know, and so it's a pity, because we're talking about this and not their fashion, and yet it works. So,
seems to.
What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, also from a very Catholic country, but one that seems to be handling the transition to the 21st century a little bit better. But I think it's fascinating because the story with them is about the internet, and if the internet didn't exist, we wouldn't be having a conversation, because they would just be...
We wouldn't know.
Yeah, there would be a brand who, as you say, had this spectacular start and really kind of embodied a really great, free, easy Italian, quite nostalgic, but sort of, had a great sort of feel about it. And then, like any brand, they go into that phase of having to decide what their second act is. And for them, that happened to coincide with the internet. So they were, in some ways, they were miles ahead in that they jumped on influencers way before, I think, most other brands, and sort of really sort of built up this idea that it was more important to have noise than to have necessarily kind of criticism or kind of conversation, but just to have that buzz around them. I think they really created that very successfully. And then it is just this bizarre sort of shift where, I guess, conversations that they might historically have had with each other or in a very intimate, protected group have become very exposed. And it is just insane that they are working in an industry which is allegedly about tolerance and, freedom and all kinds of things. It just is an insane contrast, but it does, kind of, as you say, really come down to where Italy is, kind of, and that quite sort of bizarre clash of values that it represents, and that sort of, that whole extreme masculinity, extreme femininity. It's very, very polarizing, and that's what they've obviously always drawn from, and they have played with it in the past, but now they just don't seem to be able to kind of move, I think, with the times. In some ways they are. They've courted the millennial sort of customer, and I think they've just mixed up all their messages into this one giant mess of clothes and opinion. And I think when they had D&G,
I love it.
They had an outlet,
giant mess of clothes.
but they had an outlet for being playful and a bit more lighthearted and, sort of quite relaxed. And then they had a more serious grown-up brand. And now that it's all together, it genuinely just feels like a jumble, an expensive one.
It was very clear that Dolce Gabbana was especially evening, and those beautiful, they had those amazing gowns and evening stuff. And then D&G was a license, it wasn't even them. That's why they bought it back, because it wasn't going, I guess, in the direction they wanted. What did you want to say?
I was just going to say, I guess what's a sort of a interesting question is, like, while they hold a lot of opinions that I think we've all pretty much said on the panel that we disagree with, I guess weirdly the opinions that they hold are quite well held, quite commonly held. So actually, I feel like it is Stefano's opinions, that he thinks these things, but actually really I think those opinions are far more common than we would all think. And I think, like, not just in Italy but around the world, as we can see in like contemporary politics, it's like, right-wing voices are being uplifted and are being like validated by people in power. So I don't know, I mean, while they distance themselves from one group of people, you're right, like we said, I loved them. I love them. There's a whole other group of people who probably really agree with what they're saying, like a big group of people I do not know. So actually is, no wonder it's not doing any harm. In a way, to their
but
business,
also I think there are many people that don't care where the frocks they buy and they love comes from. I mean, we are, critics, and we are more opinionated. Most of people, and why not? They just love to buy something and they don't even know maybe all of those things that we know. They feud with Diet Prada for the copies and the back and forth. I mean, my friends that don't work in fashion, they don't even know. When they say that children born in vitro are synthetic, then everybody knows because it comes out in the main press. But most of the thing we're discussing, I don't think the main public knows. Do they?
But the
Maybe.
main
I think they
public,
have
the main, yeah, sorry.
I think they have a bit of an idea of like them dressing Melania and Trump. That was like a big thing in the news, because like loads of designers were saying no, but there was like kind of one of the first used to be like, yes, we definitely don't care about it, but then they still like dabble in politics all the time, which is like, so I don't know.
Yes, no, I agree, and I think that's a really interesting thing to bring up. I think the Melania Trump dressing her is a sign, for Stefano Gabbana has said publicly that the brand is behind this and that they're very proud of dressing her. And of course, this is surrounded by controversy, but there's also a hashtag.
I think they love Trump also.
D&G woman is always used when Melania Trump is is shown on their social media platform. So she is the Dolce Gabbana woman. And I think looking at that and looking at the style, it does make sense because it works very well in the Trump golden elevator, doesn't it? It is a very similar style.
That's very well said. Also, I think that woman, I mean, I'm sorry for those that are not like that and wear Dolce Gabbana, but it's probably more superficial.
Yeah.
And that's why they don't care if they think that being gay is bad, even if they are gay. You see what I mean? So, I mean, I'm not surprised that they love Melania and they love to dress her.
I have a friend that used to like thrift for loads of old D&G and Dolce Gabbana pieces, like as cheap as she could find them, and she has loads. She was obsessed, for years. And then when all this came out, she was like, "What do I do? Can I wear it?" And we've had so many conversations about whether she should or she can, and she hasn't worn a single thing since except once, and she was like, "It's D&G, oh my god!" So there are, it's interesting. I don't know what that means, but it's just thinking about who wears it and why. And
if you look at the red carpets, people are still.
Yeah.
I mean, the Met Gala last year, there was Zendaya. There was a lot of people wearing their clothes. Helen Mirren. There's lots of actresses that.
Fewer and fewer, I think.
I don't know. It doesn't seem
Really?
I feel like maybe they don't know as much as they probably should be knowing, because then people like Zendaya, and then they had, I think Cardi B was wearing it like not long ago, and she's always saying something about like American politics. So I think a lot of people are out of touch of what the designer's saying compared to what.
Maybe they're stylish.
Yeah, I think they just feel like it looks good. But yeah.
Before saying, here is a Dolce Gabbana frog. But there's one thing I want to say. Last season, they did this famous show with a 17-page credits of people that were on the catwalk. About 140 people, daughters, mothers, grandmothers, boyfriends, girlfriends, every ethnicity, every age, every body shape. And so the press didn't talk about the clothes. Some press, even I think it was Susie Menkes said, it doesn't matter if there was no novelty, because what mattered was that it was so diverse and so inclusive. So it was a way to get them back towards the positive. And yes, it is true that it was very diverse and very inclusive, but it was exploiting some millennial Instagramming habits that were making this viral. And also one thing that I noticed is that all the young children on the catwalk were kids of celebrities. So I don't think that's very inclusive, because they were all famous people, famous name, etc. So
yeah, it's inclusive to a degree, but sort of virtue signaling. But it's, I don't know, I guess. Oh my god, those glasses. I actually kind of love them. It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. The using tokenizing diversity in order to just sell. It's just all that. You're right. It's so confusing. I'm actually deeply confused. I just know that I despise them. So that's all I know.
But I don't know if it's the Gucci factor. They used to be quite a clear brand. It was just sexy glamour. It was quite straightforward. Yeah. And now that almost every brand just seems desperate to get product out.
Yeah.
I mean, when you used to go to American fashion shows, you got it because they were showing to buyers, so you had to see 100 looks and see the same shirt in every colour. But now every brand just seems to put so many looks out, so many.
Is that the Gucci effect?
Well, I think
success of Gucci.
Well, I think just that feeling
doing something for everybody.
Doing that kind of sudden explosion.
But using influencers and bloggers is also the Gucci effect. I don't really think that the strategies are very different between Gucci and Dolce Gabbana. It's just they use different influencers.
No, Gucci doesn't put influencers and bloggers on the catwalk.
Well, but they collaborate with them. They pick them from Instagram.
But in a different way. They collaborate with artists and they make them do what they do. They're not using them
but they're using people
Instagram
who have
posts.
followers to gain traction, to show cultural capital. And I think that's not really that different. I know I shouldn't be critical in that way, but I think there are some parallels here. And also find using influencers, it seems sad because, up until, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago or so, influencers were known for their personal style and that they brought something to the industry that was, unsettling or was questioning traditional hierarchies. Now all those influencers on these catwalks look like clones.
But these are not influencers. These are young people that have famous names.
Well,
they use
bloggers.
No, they're not. They're the
the whole-
children of Jude Law. They're the children, not even.
They have like some like young musicians on there. That's what.
Yeah, a few
Like
musicians.
with Rory when he did the protest thing and ripped off his shirt and then.
Yes.
Yeah, that was
An interesting
interesting.
one. I think that's worth talking about as well.
I agree. I thought that was ace.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't understand what. Sorry, I wasn't.
So one of their shows, one of
Yeah.
a musician called Rory, he ripped off his shirt and he had D&G was saying he was against them because of like boycott
yes.
D&G, and then they had the t-shirts in line with it, so it kind of like lost the whole story. So I guess people didn't really, pick up on it enough. Well, I don't think, because I didn't know about it until looking back.
Yeah.
But that was a comment on the T-shirt, wasn't it? That is mocking this idea of boycott and political boycott in particular.
Yeah.
So as
I
an
think 'cause
American
he said-
from Texas, at the moment, I don't think you can identify with a brand who publicly says or, promotes little clips on Instagram making fun of people who stage political protests.
Yeah.
And I thought that was
I think it was a little bit like
highly
the Pepsi
cynical.
Cola ad.
Wait, no.
Generally, I think it was.
I'm confused. Sorry.
So this was
This
a
was
stage
before.
protest against them, done by them.
Was it done by them?
No, he did it by himself.
Yeah, he did it by himself. Yeah.
Oh, he did it?
Yeah, he tore off a shirt and had written it himself.
This was not planned.
I think he agreed to do the show, then after he found out they were dressing Melania and Trump, and then he was like, what is this kind of
Yeah.
thing? So he did the show, and then,
But then they jumped on it and made a T-shirt that said boycott D&G.
yeah.
So then they used it as like a marketing stunt. So then it got lost.
It was a spontaneous reaction.
I remember seeing it
to
being like, yes, this is great. And then,
what he found out.
I think
Yeah.
that T-shirt came before, came after. I don't know. I'm lost on the timeline because things are happening so fast.
Yeah.
But I think there has been a campaign boycott Dolce Gabbana before, hasn't it?
There has,
and then they responded to this idea that a boycott can be boycotted and that any boycott is futile.
And they had huge amount of publicity.
Yes, that gave them publicity because in all that kitsch, that is actually highly bitter and cynical.
I must
and kitsch
say-
shouldn't be cynical, then it just becomes fascist.
I must say, I just want to go back to the similar strategy. I think what Gucci does is, of course, it's strategic. They use artists to talk to them and with them and then have publicity online. What Dolce Gabbana does, use millennials to have hits online, but they don't make them do anything other than walk in their clothes. So it's very different, I think.
Well, I think, but then those same millennials then take this back online and
Yeah, the result is-
create new hashtags and
Essentially replicate 100, however many influencers you have, you get 100 different streams going out to all those audiences. So it just branches outwards.
But that's why I said the digital strategy can be the same, but then the use of it, I think it's very different. It's,
But I just think one's way cooler and one's a bit like more. But I mean, I think the digital strategy is happening across fashion, isn't it? And that like using influencers.
everybody's trying.
Everybody is.
Whatever, yes.
This, yeah.
Take it away, so I've jumped
Shall
on
we
it.
have a look at the show? What do you think? Because eventually that's what we're here for.
Yep.
So, yeah.
that's-
So first of all, we had breaking news while we were waiting to come live with this, and apparently the show was 45 minutes late, and someone posted breaking news, Anna Wintour just walked out whilst waiting, and she was cheered by the audience. So that wasn't a very good start, 45 minutes or 1 hour late.
Give you a T-shirt tomorrow.
With the Queen walking out. There probably will be a T-shirt by that. Thought about that. So let's see the show. Have you seen it?
I
Have you
looked at
watched
quickly
it?
online, yeah.
First impressions?
watched
Well, it's funny because it's obviously religion as decoration. They've really kind of pushed the whole devotion angel
First
thing.
it started with drones
Yeah.
coming out with.
Sorry, just lol. It's so funny. Drones and bags, like please.
But the funny thing, someone was telling me before, if Gucci had done the drone with the bags, we would say, wow, that's cool. But they do the drones with the bag and we're like, oh, pathetic. I mean, we know
it's
that.
quite cool.
I think it goes more with Gucci than it does with D&G.
Exactly, that's it. Because here it doesn't
It just looks
sound
so funny.
authentic. It's not who they are, that's why. And the Catholic theme, I mean, I think the show was called Devotion.
Yeah.
And as we know, in May, the Met exhibition this year is dedicated to Catholicism and the way, you know, the Catholic clothes from the Vatican and whatever. And so, of course, they own this theme of crosses and Catholicism in fashion, and so they jumped on the wagon and they dedicated the whole show to that. With plenty of slogans like passion for fashion, which is not the passion we think about, but it's passion of Christ probably, and you know, and devoted to fashion, which is in a religion way. But it started with those drones that I don't know what do they have to do with Catholicism apart from looking like crosses.
I'm actually obsessed. I'm sorry, it's absurd. It's like actually ridiculously funny. It looks so budget. It looks so deep. Yeah, I know, it's so funny. It looks so deeply budget though. That's the problem. Like, I don't think you can ever make a drone look classy because they like wobble.
Yeah.
So jokes. I'm literally stunned by it. Wow.
But so what does it have to do with the title of the show?
Seem to have
Well,
like
they have
hearts
some,
on the
you know,
bags, don't they?
supernatural quality, and these bags are, you know, just we are here to worship.
Okay, that makes sense, yes. But judging from the audience, the people were not cheering and applauding and saying, wow, they were laughing.
Also, their relationship with religion is interesting in that, like, they're so beholden to so many of its. I grew up Catholic too, and they seem so beholden to so many of its Catholicism's archaic views, a la homophobia, children born in vitro. But they're also happy to like kind of take the piss out of it and profiteer hugely from it. So, you know, like, where's that in the? I'm sure that's not cool in the Bible. If you look at it, like, you know, do you know what I mean? It's sort of like they kind of bastardize it too. So it's really interesting. Both I just keep going back to very confused.
But also the set, I think it wants to look like a church, but it's full of little cupids that are the little angels.
Yeah, the naughty angels.
Of love.
Yeah.
The naughty angels, yeah.
What just happened there?
Yeah.
Well, the drones have left. That was the beginning.
No, I know,
With
but-
the new bag, the devotion bag. That was a devotion bag. I didn't see it perfectly, but I read it before, so.
I'm actually quite obsessed with this fashion sinner. This is what the first t-shirt says.
Yes.
I'm actually weirdly quite into it. I'm so bad. I hate them, and now I'm quite like would so wear the like modern nun fashion sinner.
Yeah, but the problem is the logo underneath, so you wouldn't wear
Exactly,
it because of that.
because I'd be associated, but this probably wouldn't fit me. I'm sure they don't run it in my size.
So yeah, it starts quite calm with black and white, and then it goes all Dolce Gabbana full speed. So yeah, so you will see there are many slogans about, you know, with hints to religions and religious words. So, and what do we think about this? I'm
That is so Gucci.
well.
But
That's so Gucci.
it doesn't look natural. It looks really like forced.
Of
like
course, but they say
yeah.
that Gucci is copying them, and yet I think when things work in fashion, it's because they're authentic and genuine. Or when they don't work, it's because they're not. And
Well,
I
I
think-
guess we just have to wait a couple of years. They might admit it again. Maybe.
But it looks costume to me. It looks like what you would wear to a fancy dress party.
I don't mind fashion as costume. I think it's exciting. Like, I don't, you know, it's like.
If it doesn't look like costume, it's exciting, no?
No, costume is fine. I feel that elements of it are quite camp, but it obviously this look, for example, but then it misses that sensibility, and without that, then it can't be. We can't even see it in that way.
They're probably telling all the women that are going to the Met, here are the looks for you. You can pick and choose, you know? There's so
irony
much
that, like
that
you
would
say,
work at the Met.
Sorry, it's deeply camp, and yet they like, you know, hate the label of gay. It's just stop it now.
There's so much also that I don't. I mean, for me, one thing when I'm looking for a Dolce Gabbana show, I really have to read the dates because I don't recognize one from the other. Probably apart from the set and the casting, but.
I don't think the casting never changes though. It's always like quite similar. It's always like guess one person of color and then
Except when they
Yeah.
did what they did last season,
Yeah.
where they wanted to be inclusive, right? So what do we
There's
think
one
about
person of
fashion?
colour walked, yeah?
Just one. Yeah.
What do we think about the fashion?
It's just quite heavy. I mean, I think that's a thing for me generally at the minute, is that every collection just seems to have so many textures and surfaces, and you know, everything's getting more luxurious, more opulent. There's not much you can see that you think that'll be easy to wear. Everything just feels very performative and very
Yeah.
sort of, and I do get that there is a kind of a place and a group of people that need to wear clothes as performance, but there isn't much that's just a great whatever. There was a kind of a classic Dolce Gabbana dress came out a while ago. It was just kind of the hourglass, right? That's an hourglass, but it was covered in stuff. There was kind of a layer of kind of, you know, glittery bits.
A
on
lot
top
of
it.
everything. This is very Dolce Gabbana.
Yeah.
But we've
Again,
seen it
it's
before,
sort of,
you
yeah.
know, it's the Monica Bellucci
Yeah,
type of dress.
Yes,
I
exactly.
think if it works, like, why not just kind of, like, this is really nice. I think that's my favorite look out of everything I've seen. Like, it's too, like, like I went to Pitti recently, and like that's how people dress outside, like very over the top, and like they come to get noticed, and it's very Italian street style. So I guess they're just running with what is currently now, but I guess using their own aesthetic to kind of enhance it.
Wait, so people at Pitti dress like this?
More so like,
Can you describe it when you say this? Because people
I'm
don't know what
obsessed
you're
with
talking about. Which
not
one?
so much like that, more like before they had like the red jacket and then, like the hoodie.
Peacocks or
Yeah, peacock sort of style. Like just come there to stand out with the glasses, more the girl behind. Yeah, her.
Those glasses, oh my god.
You like them.
No, I despise them, but also like
But who
the
wants
14,
to
well,
wear
the
wow
14-year-old
on
girl
their
inside me
faces?
is like screaming for every look. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, as I said, I'm trying to divorce looking at this from anything I feel about them, and I actually kind of hate myself because I don't hate it. I actually, while we're all saying there's too much, I'm kind of into over the top. I mean, I'm always like, why not? Like, bit of camp, bit of sparkle, loads of textures. Like, this is how I used to dress at university, bar the crop top, literally. Like, literally those glasses, like the cheap version. It's
They
deeply
ripped you off for this
confused.
collection.
Sorry?
They ripped you off for this collection.
Absolutely, I'll be hashtagging them later, but it's like, you know, it's weird because I don't hate the clothes, I just would never go near them, and yeah, but I don't hate the clothes, I think they're fun. And
No, I think that, I think there are some things that are perfect for them, because I still believe that you cannot try to be what you're not. So as Bianca was saying, their streetwear is a little bit weird and not credible. But when it's the typical Dolce Gabbana dress like this one that we've just seen, you know, or this one, then it's not my cup of tea, but it's great fashion, I think. You know, they know how to do that. They own that, you know, the corset, the sheer with the beautiful underwear and the, you know, underwear. This flowery, white flowery piece, that's very Dolce Gabbana.
yeah, it is. This, however,
But this, however, it's ridiculous, I think. No?
yeah, I mean, I think it's perfectly designed to take a photo of and post a selfie of, essentially. That wig, God. Wow.
So what is this trend of cover heads all over fashion? Balaclavas and scarves and hats. There's every brand has done their version of, you know, modesty.
Well, I guess it
What
works
is
very
it?
well with selfies, right? I mean, I don't see balaclavas here. This is all crowns
We've
and tiaras.
seen one at the beginning, so that's why.
There's a
Oh, there's this
Animal
hood.
Oh god.
Yeah, that's not even a balaclava. That's a beast. But what is it? Do you think people are trying to sell to Middle Eastern modest women, or it's
think
just
so.
a trend, a passing trend?
But is
I
that
haven't
modest?
decided yet.
I'm so, no, that they can't be selling a zebra coat to like a, you know, someone who dresses modestly, like a zebra coat.
No, I wasn't talking about that.
Oh, okay. I was like,
I was talking about this trend of, because I've seen a balaclava and a few hats and a few completely covered heads, and I've seen them
Then it
from
was a bit more
London to.
Handmaid's Tale, sort of that thing of.
So it's a trend.
I think people are struggling to know how to deal with a lot of the things that are happening in the world at the minute, and so I think there definitely in London anyway was that feeling of, well, you can't be celebratory. What do you do to sort of reflect a kind of seriousness and a kind of stripped backness in some way. So it felt like some of it just came from that, from sort of a bit of denial and a bit of sort of...
Okay. Yeah.
Or like want to escape. Maybe.
Yeah.
I think it's a nice idea. I think it's important that designers should be thinking about how, you know, women who, you know, wear hijabs would wear fashion. I think that's really nice. I think that's important. People
Not that they'll
should
be
thinking
wearing
about that
crosses.
kind, but I feel like Dolce & Gabbana are, I don't know, maybe they are.
I don't think they're trying to apply to a trend as much as, Marc Jacobs did it really well for his,
Probably is the one who did it best.
yeah, for his last season, because
Yeah.
it was like,
With the turbans.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was a really good take on modest fashion.
It was very fashion. It was fashion. It was very forward. Yeah. But here, I don't know.
I mean, these women that we see here, this is ostentatious, this is conspicuous consumption.
Rich.
This is, yes, that is
Very
what
rich.
conspicuous consumption means. It means, you know, I am celebrating, you know, the wealth and shamelessly promoting my income, and you know, and it is about emulation. It's about you know, we want to be copied for being wealthy, and we celebrate that. And these are women who are, you know, this is all about ornament. This is all about decorating the body. It's all about surface. Very little innovation in terms of silhouette, apart from those corsets that we saw. And I guess that is what Dolce & Gabbana is known for, but it is pushed to the absolute limit, I think, with each garment that we see. And that is a kind of woman, I don't know, that I wouldn't aspire to, of course, personally, a woman who thrives on,
Thank God.
on, you know, showing off how wealthy she is. You know?
Yeah, all that in a church with a devotional theme. So there's something they profess this, you know, devotion, if I may say, no pun intended or pun intended, and then it could be considered blasphemy. How do you say?
Blasphemous.
Blasphemous.
I think it's so interesting as well about what you say about conspicuous consumption as well, because I think it's become really quite a castigating position in fashion in many ways, like gaudiness and showing off, you know, like actually so much of the world has tried to move away, like distance itself from looking as if it's, you know, as we see the effects of late capitalism and how deeply horrendous it all is, like, all that we're looking at Dolce & Gabbana. But I found it, I don't know, in a way, I mean, I don't know, I'm not a fan of capitalism, but it's quite, God, I'm like sort of shocked to myself. I'm quite liking it. I'm quite like.
But you have to finish your sentence.
I am.
It was interesting.
Well, like, it's hard because the other part of me, I'm a drag queen, so part of me is like, yes, dress that way. Yes, you own everything. Like, there's something quite nice about that. But then when I actually think what it really means in reality, obviously that's not very nice. That's my take. That's my inarticulate take. But it is interesting. Like, people, other brands, you know. It's very fashionable now to sort of wear a slouchy trouser, a Stan Smith, an oversized hoodie. So, because, you know, like, yeah, that's what I was meaning. Distancing oneself from like that ostentation or gaudiness, because that's like no longer the aspirational position in the way it used to be when Dolce & Gabbana started. But it's interesting to see a brand thriving who maintains that as the aspirational position. And of course, they're dressing Melania Trump. And of course, they're super right wing. I'm not saying the two go hand in hand, but it's interesting.
Well, yes, they do.
Well,
I think in a way, and their customer is very, very rich, and they don't care about anything else than showing off. Why not? I mean, commercially speaking, that works. They found their, you know, their audience and their customer.
I don't really think that people are kind of running away from showing their wealth in terms of like the brands, because like things like Gucci and like Off-White, or not really Off-White, but like people like to show that they're wearing something expensive, so having a brand and having something that is obvious, whereas I think they're probably just like jumping on the trend in their own way with this, but I guess more so with the Gucci side of things.
Do you think that's more insider knowledge though? Like, you know, like, I don't think many people, I have an Off-White hoodie that just says off here. And I think like you would get a nod here or there that's like, cool hoodie, it's Off-White. But like, I don't think
It's more about cultural capital then, isn't it?
Yeah,
so
in a
those
way,
who understand it will read it.
We'll read it and be like, oh, that's an expensive hoodie, but anyone else will be like, that's just a hoodie. Like this one, it's from Zara. But like, it's slightly different in that like this looks pricey, or does it look cheap? I don't know.
I think this one particularly looks more cheap than pricey to me. It's a bit more towards the Moschino style than the Gucci style. But
Moschino's knowing. Sorry, I was thinking a lot about Moschino. Moschino is knowing and tongue-in-cheek and funny.
Yeah.
And like this is where they're missing the point. Like
they're not ironic.
they're not
ironic at all. They're first degree. You see what I mean? It's not at all ironic. That's what they are. They believe in this.
But they're making camp sensibility reactionary, and that is what upsets me. There is a campness here, and that is what draws us to it. But camp is a sensibility, and if you make that reactionary again and right wing, then you're reclaiming it as something that is hyper feminine, but it has nothing to do with upsetting or sort of challenging discourse or sort of hierarchies.
You were saying
that's
upsetting.
That's quite upsetting.
But for them, it's just a theme, isn't it? They'll move on to something else, and the next show it'll be a completely different.
I don't know. Are they changing so much? I feel that
the clothes are the same. They just call it differently now. I mean, these clothes have slogans that we haven't seen before. So
because they're doing 3 shows this weekend, right? They did one last night that was all very sparkly evening wear, the diamond show.
It was the secret diamonds and platinum. It was called, right?
Yeah, and then they're doing another show at Rinascente this afternoon.
Oh, really? Yeah. What was that?
It's a public show. I don't know. It sounds like a different
I didn't know
collection
that.
again.
Sorry. I knew about, I've watched online the one last night. It was really Dolce Gabbana, gowns and...
Quite message-free compared to...
But when they do that secret, which is not very secret because we all know, is it for what? For editors or for clients? It's like
there's some editors there, I think, yeah.
But it's more for clients, I guess, for customers.
But it's almost...
Sorry?
More exclusive then, so you're letting some in and some have to watch it. How many pieces is this?
It's very big. I think
there's a lot in it.
It looks like it was endless, so it's probably 100, right?
Yeah.
Going back to what
there were no boys in it. There was no menswear at all.
Sorry, just going back to what you're saying about camp. You're saying that like camp is like sort of a sensibility and like you were saying there's potential to sort of radical politics in camp and in camp aesthetics.
Yes.
But they're like donning it and defanging it basically. That's
what I would read here.
So it also then would depend on the wearer and the context in which it's worn too. Is interesting. Like if I wouldn't wear it because I don't like the brand, but like if I was a drag queen, I am a drag queen. That's my other job. But like I guess the context in which it is, this context is deeply uncamp. It's weirdly like also religious and under a homophobic guise, which is just also straight. Yeah, it's
confusing.
Me. It's really confusing and it's fascinating.
But I think they're laughing all the way to the bank when we are saying all of this because they're not even taking the piss. I mean, it's just they just do what comes to their mind. They put little angels on a church facade and here we go. Let's do the religious theme. So I think it's all a little bit not confusing, but it's a little bit insulting of every principle that anybody could have.
But then they're
Am I going too far?
But then they're so hard
running away.
They were 45 minutes late. That's why. Sorry.
Yeah, no, sorry. Just then they're so hard while they're using all this. Like we were saying before, they kind of bastardize some things, and then they're so hardline on other things.
Exactly.
So
it's hypocritical.
Well, yeah. Oh my gosh.
None of us will be invited to the next Dolce Gabbana show after this panel, that's for sure.
I don't think I was ever on the list.
Yeah.
No, me neither. So what is our last words on this show and on these topics of Dolce Gabbana doing?
Well, the Italian elections are coming up next week, and
do you think they care?
Of course they care. They are very close to Berlusconi, So Stefano Gabbana is definitely very close to him and has said publicly that he supports the party. But there's another party, that might win, that is fiercely anti-Europe. So
and fiercely anti-refugees and fiercely anti-foreigners.
Yeah, this is nationalism.
It's totally populist.
Coming back in a big way in Italy.
Yeah.
So
scary.
you see, and we're looking at this in the context of nationalist politics.
Are they quite, I mean, they are, it feels like actually looking at their history, they are kind of nationalist in many ways. So what do you know, so they're friends with Berlusconi, it's not...
Yes.
By the way, just going back to the very beginning...
party is not the party that, I was talking about.
Going back to the very beginning when you were saying that when we didn't know because the internet wasn't there. But I remember that, I don't know if maybe the less young at this day will remember that there was a campaign with Linda Evangelista cropped platinum hair in Sicily, sitting next to some older women from there. And it was very beautiful. I don't remember who shot it, but it was one of the first campaigns. I mean, it was...
Fernando Schiana?
It's possible. And Linda was at the top of her career, etc. Yes. And then, 1 or 2 months later, this thing came out in the press. I was living in Rome at the time, so I was in Italy, that they never paid those women. Those women didn't know that they were actually in a commercial campaign by Dolce Gabbana. So they were sitting with this beautiful model and they were given water and wine, whatever. And there were 2 older mamas dressed in black in Sicily. So it probably didn't travel internationally because there wasn't the internet. But I remember it was the first big thing about them or against them.
Remember
You're talking what, late 90s?
Remember there was a thing, wasn't there, that the one with Belinda and Tony Ward, where it was a moment of passion, but it was kind of, it very much felt like a moment of passion gone too far. I remember that quite clearly.
No, I don't remember that. When was that?
It would have been late 90s again.
Okay.
Was it the man on top of Linda Evangelista?
I think he was up against a wall. It's a very graphic conversation for Sunday afternoon. But yeah, I just remember at the time, kind of that being the first point at which kind of I think of them in controversy. That was kind of.
It was very controversial. That campaign was famously because of what it emulated.
That the first time I heard them talking and saying this about passion, and it's Italian, it's fine, it's that sort of.
I didn't care at that point as well too, but I think they haven't had anyone really make it a point that what they say and their opinions are a bad thing. I think they've just been kind of brushed off, or that's them in a way. So it's
Elton John stood up very strongly against them. But I also think that that's a very good point, because I also think that they're quite lucky that they did that a year and a half ago and not now. Because now with the Me Too movement, the time's up, I don't think they would have gotten out of it so easily.
That's true.
I think it would have been much worse.
Yeah, I'm excited about what's happening in America now. Millennials, the new campaign, Never Again. It's we always say millennials aren't political. Well, they're actually changing.
Of course they are, yeah. But that's why I say the timing of their horrible opinion saying and gaffes was perfect for them, because it's not now. I don't think now it would have gone away so quickly. Shall we conclude with this?
I was just going to say, I think, as you say, as people get more political in their fashion choices and news spreads faster, one hopes they will kind of fade into
oblivion. It's a billion. It's a billion euros company. It's not going to go anywhere. It's a billion. They passed the billion mark in 2016. It's a very successful private-owned brand. So
you're right, but you're so right. But I guess it's just
Well, we see. I mean, I thought it was interesting what we were saying earlier about which celebrities endorse them. There might be, with Cardi B, for example, there might be a change, and if that changes, and if certain celebrities don't wear them anymore, then that would even frighten somebody who is so commercially successful.
And also, quickly, is there a point to be said that if, I was thinking on the way here, if they were to come out and be like, you know what, we were actually totally wrong, and I don't know about the sort of current culture of someone getting something wrong in the public eye, and and by wrong, there's obviously totally lines, but you know, as someone in the group that they've very much like gone for. Like if they came out and they were like, you know what, actually it was all these things and I was wrong, and actually I think this, I wonder if I would want to look at them again. So maybe there's hope that they'll learn a lesson, but I feel like they probably
I don't think so.
I feel like, yeah, even if they said that, it wouldn't be authentic because they had so many chances to kind of bring it back. Like,
and they just
I think they just keep,
But also, if you read the reaction they give online to anyone who, I mean, God knows what will happen to us, but to anyone who is, you know, against something that they've said, they've done, they showed, it's so fierce. They're not there to say I'm sorry, to atone. They believe in what they say.
I mean, come at me, Stefano, literally. Can you please spell Gabbana?
Well, on these words, I think we can conclude a very positive panel on Dolce Gabbana. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.